The Detroit Tigers split in split squads. They win a game and lose a game. We'll talk about notable performances from there. We're also going to talk prospect breakout, the Tigers roster for a new fun spring training event. And then we'll end by player previewing the 2024 season for Parker Meadows. All today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Friday, March 8th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more right now. New customers can join today and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Alrighty, welcome in. Hope everyone had a fantastic week. Happy Friday to all. The Tigers played in 2 baseball games on Thursday after a day off on Wednesday. Spring is funny that way. So we will talk about both games, just the standouts from both as we've been doing. They lost a game to the Blue Jays and won a game against the New York Yankees. So we'll break both of those down for as much as we do break down spring training games. Then we're going to talk about the prospect breakout, not tournament, but just event, I guess. Really, really cool thing that baseball is doing this spring. We'll talk about that, the Tigers prospect roster for said event. And then we'll end the show by doing a player preview on, I think, a dynamic is the word I would use to describe Parker Meadows, but one of the more not only dynamic, but just kind of talked about and hyped players going into this season in Meadows, obviously. So let's start off by talking about the split squad performances by the Detroit Tigers. Like I said, a 4-5 loss to the Toronto Blue Jays. That game started at 6, and then at 6:30, the Tigers started a game where they would win 11-5 against the New York Yankees. I want to start with the pitchers just because they are two players who will be important to the success of the Major League team this year, and that is Kenta Maeda and Jack Flaherty. Maeda ramped up his usage a lot in this game, touched 90 a few times, so, we're still waiting for the velocity to come around, but his camp, has said that he usually doesn't throw too terribly much over the winter, and it's a long spring training, so we'll keep an eye on that, but did ramp up the usage a lot more through certainly comfortably the most pitches he has yet to throw so far in spring training. So take that with what you will. Still some command stuff, obviously. Again, still got to ramp up the velo a little bit, but the stuff plays, man. You see that splitter, and you understand why he's had success at the major league level when healthy for a while now. And then Jack Flaherty. The velocity was still way up compared to what it was last year. It wasn't that, average 95.5 or whatever he was throwing out there in the first couple of outings, but he also threw 50 pitches, which is comfortably the most that he has thrown. He was all over the place command-wise. I'm not going to lie to you. He actually got pulled and then reinserted into the game because it's spring training and you can do that. But yeah, his first inning of work was really rough. He was all over the place, walking people left and right, putting the ball right down the middle as well. Just really didn't have a feel for anything. Again, not that it's spring training, not that that's the end of the world. Want to reiterate that. Then went out there in the second inning and looked a lot better and kind of snapped back into it. I want to say he struck out the side. He at least had 2 of his strikeouts in that inning. There was an automatic strikeout as well with the pitch clock. So yeah, he looked much better in the second, obviously. And that velocity is still the average 4-seam fastball velo for him in this outing was 94.4, which is still well up than to what we were used to from him the last couple of years. So still up, but I think this is kind of a sign that, once he is pitching 70, 80, 90 pitches in an outing, I'm not sure it's going to maintain, that 95.5 or 95 flat maybe that it was, when he threw 10 pitches in his first spring training outing. Maybe a slightly different mindset there, but it is still up with 50 pitches under his belt and almost 24 seam fastballs, which I think is a good sign. And as we've reiterated a lot already, there's still a lot of spring training left. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that and see what happens. Other standouts from these games, obviously, again, it's spring training. I don't want to go through every single person because it's certainly not that important to do so. But there are a couple of players that do stand out. Andy Ibanez hit a ball to the moon. I don't think it's landed yet. That was deep into the night, and then you didn't even see it land. It just went into the darkness, and it was like it got evaporated. Absolutely crushed it. Andy Ibanez is a guy that when he makes contact with the ball, really no matter where it goes, he's already starting to kind of run because he mechanically he puts his foot in the bucket a lot, which is like usually a big no-no, but he's hitting well at the major league level, at the best level on the planet for, a calendar year now. So I guess he can kind of do what he wants, but even he stood and watched that one, which I'm not sure I've ever seen him do before. He stood and really kind of walked and took his time out of the batter's box there. Absolutely smoked it. Last time I checked, he was tied for the lead in the league in spring training homers, and certainly added to it, like I said, in this game. So he continues his hot spring. Was always a lock to make the roster, but certainly is not going anywhere now. I did also want a couple other pitchers that pitched. Bo Brisky consistently pumping 97, with ease. 97 and a half, even creeping up into 98 miles an hour. So that was really good to see. Shelby Miller's splitter is absolutely disgusting and is as advertised. Really cool to see that in person finally, or not in person, but see it live rather. Finally, another person that's had a really good spring that we haven't really talked about is Drew Anderson. The Drew Anderson story is really fascinating. He was a major league pitcher, and then he went and pitched in Japan, I believe, and has come back and is now, his velo is way up. And he's not going to make the major league roster on opening day or anything, but still really cool storyline to kind of follow. Had 4 strikeouts in 1 2/3 innings in this one. So kind of a cool story there. I think that's probably it from the Yankees game as I quickly look over here. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's any other offensive performances. Really sloppy defense from both games, to be completely honest with you. Was not very impressed with the defense in either of these, but again, early in spring, we'll give them time to kind of iron some of that out. And I'm sure that in the regular season, when the games count, there'd be a little bit more effort on some of the plays as well. Andrew Chafin gave up a long ball. Alex Lang looked really darn good. 1 inning, 2 strikeouts, no walks, which is the big stat everybody cares about with him, obviously. But he looked really solid. I thought the command, he was throwing the sinker, establishing that on the inside part of the plate to lefties too, which I appreciated. Him and Foley both. The thing about Foley, and this is why we have to take spring training stats and performances with honestly a lot of a grain of salt. Jason Foley was throwing the heck out of his slider in counts where I don't think he usually would. He started off his outing with a slider, was throwing it, on 2-strike counts, trying to get more swing and miss stuff. And this is the time to do that. This is the time to work out some of those kinks and try to work out some of those areas that we would like to see Foley improve on, which is get a little bit more swing and miss stuff in his arsenal. So he was throwing the heck out of it. Looked, pretty good. Gave up some hard contact on the slider, but it stayed in the yard. Also walked a batter. Kind of not really something that we're used to seeing from him, but was trying something new. And that's, again, why I always give my kind of caveat about spring. Alex Fido also looked great in this one. 2 innings of perfect baseball with 4 strikeouts. Parker Meadows also sent a ball into orbit. We did see that one actually land, though, but he crushed a baseball, had a fantastic day at the office, honestly. Made a really nice defensive play, as well as the 2 hits, one of those being an absolute moonshot. I think that's pretty much it. Riley Green with a couple of knocks. Colt Keith, I think, looks comfortable. He didn't look very good in his first at-bat, but I think kind of recovered nicely. And then Jace Young. Jace Young hit the heck out of a fastball up and in. Turn and burn, baby. He hit that one pretty darn hard as well. So yeah, a lot of home runs. Christian Santana in the Yankees game got in and didn't hit a homer, but hit a triple off the wall. Ball was flying around in Florida, apparently, but good to see. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the prospect breakout games. We'll talk about that event, and then we'll talk about Parker Meadows a little bit more. All right, we'll do all of that right after this. Got to talk to you guys today about our new friends over at Factor. Eating better is easy with Factor's delicious, ready to eat meals. Every fresh, non frozen meal is chef crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to go in just 2 minutes. You'll have over 35 options to choose from every week, including Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Also, there are more than 60 add ons to help you stay fueled up and feeling good all day long. So what are you waiting for? Get started today and get after your goals. Factor is the perfect solution if you're looking for fast premium options with no cooking required. So you can sign up and save. We've done the math, and Factor is less expensive than takeout, and every meal is dietitian approved, like I said. So it can be nutritious rather, and delicious. So head to factormeals.com/LockedOnMLB50 and use code LockedOnMLB50 to get 50% off. That's code LockedOnMLB50, all one word, and 50 is the 50, at factormeals.com/LockedOnMLB50 for 50% off. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back on Monday, recapping some more baseball and talking any news and notes to come out of Lakeland over the weekend. Also, gonna plug my other show here, Trade Deadline Frenzy, in hockey. So Brian and I will be talking a lot about what the Red Wings hopefully do, but maybe don't do at the deadline. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free TV channels app. Okay, so we kind of talked about all of the notable performances from the split squad games that the Tigers played on Thursday. Now we're going to transition into the hot new event of spring training, and that is the spring breakout. They are going to put every single team's, top prospects all on one roster and have them just play a bunch of games against each other, basically. So the Tigers will play the Phillies spring breakout team. And we have the rosters for the spring breakout game as well. I'm trying to get a date on when this is as well, but a really, really cool event. And 1:05 p.m. March 16th will be the Tigers game. Just a brilliant idea. And it's like about time. We've been asking for the sport to focus on prospects more, and it's something that's so cool and so unique to baseball. And the depths of the prospects and the depths of the minor leagues is something that's so unique to our sport and this sport. And they just don't, they didn't take care of them for a while, which was kind of a tough look. And obviously a lot of teams are taking big steps in the right direction in that department, but B, they just weren't really talked about. And that's why no one cared about the MLB draft. And that's why, people really had a hard time getting into, draft prospects and college baseball and young players, et cetera, just because it took so long to make the majors. And so now you have, on All-Star weekend, you have the prospect game, which is a really great idea to have right before the All-Star game. So, you kind of get the carryover in viewership and you send them to play in the same field right as the All-Stars do. Brilliant idea. And now we have another here. And hopefully this becomes a regular thing. This is obviously the inaugural one. This has never happened before, but I'm hoping, and it sounds like the plan is for this to be a regular occurrence kind of every spring. And I think it's such a brilliant idea. So the Tigers will send 27 players and Alan Trammell will be the manager. Tram, obviously the manager of the Tigers during kind of the not great era of Tigers baseball, but is a legend of the organization, no less, obviously. And is just such a brilliant baseball mind that everybody in and around the organization consistently talks about how much of an influence Tram has when he works with players, especially on the fielding side of things. So really cool that he'll be able to kind of take the reins for this game. The pitchers will be Max Alba, Wilmer Flores, Ty Madden, Troy Melton, and RJ Pettit. RJ Pettit also was throwing 97, 98 in the split squad games. Want to shout him out. Loved him on draft night. Hopefully he can become a solid reliever at some point. Jake Higginbotham, Brant Herder, Andrew Magno, and Adam Wolf. Magno, really fascinating. One of the guys that we all, I think, did I say? I'm trying to remember what my take was back in the fall when we were talking about 40-man roster and the Rule 5 draft. That's the phrase I was thinking of. When we were talking about the Rule 5 draft and having to protect players by adding them to the 40 so that they can't be eligible to be taken in the Rule 5, Magno was like the sleeper candidate that everybody was talking about. And so getting more of a look at him is really cool. Higginbotham acquired in a trade as well. Was that 2 years ago now? Yeah, 2 years ago now. So good to see him. On the offensive side of the ball, we have Josu Briseño, Dylan Dingler, and Eliza Alfonso, Max Anderson, Trey Cruz, Luke Gold, Jake Holton, Jace Young, Hao-Yu Lee, Kevin McGonigal, Winseal Perez, and Christian Santana. And then outfield, we have Brady Allen, Justice Bigby, Brett Callahan, Roberto Campos, Max Clark, and Seth Stevenson. So obviously all the top dogs are in there except for Jackson Jobe. And the reason for that is Jackson Jobe is pitching a spring training game this week. So there would be no point to send him. He's not going to pitch because he's pitching for the Detroit Tigers spring training game. I believe Kiter Montero falls in the same boat. Some people are asking why he isn't either. I believe he's scheduled to pitch next week for the Tigers as well. So that's why the two of them don't find themselves on this roster. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the biggest names we just did our prospect, the MLB Pipelines, top 30 prospects on yesterday's show. A lot of carryover, right? A lot of the names we talked about yesterday, we're talking about today. And if you've been following the system for a couple of years now, a lot of these names are familiar, right? Luke Gold, I don't think is top 30 anymore, but was at one point. Trey Cruz, same thing. Trey Cruz, kind of versatile, has been playing some center field, had a much better, was that second half, I want to say, of last season. Also played in the Caribbean Series, Trey Cruz. So he's kind of been all over the place this winter and this spring as well. So yeah, it'll be cool to see this game. I'm just really pumped for the event. Like, this is going to be so much fun. Every single team is doing this. They're all playing against each other. It's like a 4-day stretch that all of these games are happening, and then every team's playing at least a game, and it'll be super fun. So I just really can't wait to take in this brand new event. I think it's a rare marketing W from the sport of baseball, which doesn't have too many of those in the last, my lifetime. But I think this is one that is going to stick and should stick. I think it's a really, really cool and good idea. Also, obviously, who doesn't want to see Max Clark on TV, right? That's going to be super fun. So, yeah, there you go. The prospect breakout game, going to be super cool. Those are the players for the Tigers that will, be playing the Phillies on March 16th there. Okay, let's talk Parker Meadows. I want to preface this by saying this, okay? When we talk, there was no transition from that to Parker Meadows. I'm not even mad that that was a weak transition. Let's just talk Parker Meadows, though. I want to start off by saying I am going to sound super excited this entire time, and I don't want that to be misconstrued as me thinking that, like, Parker Meadows is going to win MVP this year, okay? I am so pumped that he is going to be a Detroit Tiger all season. I'm so excited to watch him play. I think he has a ton of tools. I think he could be a really, really, really valuable baseball player for this team in the long run. But I'm going to get excited. I know I'm going to get excited. And I want that to not be misconstrued as me, because I've had that happen before, right? Where I've really been super pumped about a player, and half the comments are, wow, you think this guy's going to be an all-star? And it's like, well, okay, that's not quite what I was going for, but I'm very passionate about my excitement for Parker Meadows manning center field in Comerica Park this summer. And let's talk about it. All right, we will do that right after this. Let's talk about Amazon Fire TV. Okay, our friends over at Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing television that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. And now Fire TV recently created the Fire TV Channels app to deliver a consistent supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On, first and foremost. That should be most important to you, right? But also the biggest pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV Channels lets you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date in the latest world of sports. March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more, not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well. So check out Fire TV Channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV Channels, you should. Trust me. Visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all so much for tuning in, as always. Here to talk a little bit about Parker Meadows. So, just has so many tools, and that's like the immediate thing that kind of jumps out the page at you. He does have some things that we need to see him improve on to take the next step, and there are things that will really determine his ceiling, right? But if you're starting on a base level, a guy that is going to play Comerica Park center field, a very, very large outfield with very deep alleys, right? Doubles alley, triples alley, and right field. And to have a guy this athletic and talented manning center field is such a beautiful thing that I think just on a base level, no matter what happens at the plate, and we'll talk all about the offense, obviously, there is so much he has going for him on the defensive side of the ball and on the base path. So at a minimum, you're going to get a guy that last season was a +4 OAA. That is in what, 37 games? I want to say he played 315 innings, 37 games, and was a +4 outs above average. That is remarkable in 1 month of baseball to be a +4. His arm strength also good, 81st percentile, just all around has all the makings to be a big time plus defender for this baseball team for a long time. And obviously, most of that, being a center fielder, is going to come from his sprint speed, 90th percentile in sprint speed, top 10%. But that's average sprint speed. He reached, at his peak, a sprint speed that was in the top 10 in the entire game of baseball at one point last year. So you're getting an uber athlete, right? 6'5", 205, and just runs like the absolute wind. Really fun, not only if he puts the ball into the gap, triple threat every time out of the box, but again, defensively and in the base paths, just going to wreak havoc in both of those areas. And that raises his floor, right? There are some things with his offensive profile that we need to see him improve on. But it's just really reassuring that at worst, we have a 9-hitter that's going to be a really good defender and is going to be a really valuable base runner. That's like worst case scenario here. Best case scenario is the offense really clicks going forward. And this is going to be his first full season. I would fully expect some really, some ups and downs. I would expect some peaks and valleys. I fully expect him to probably have a several week, maybe even a month or so stretch where he's not seeing the ball too well and probably struggles. But I also, with what we have seen so far and what we saw a lot in AAA, I would expect him to get a hold of some, right? We saw how much he crushed that ball in spring training, obviously on Thursday. So offensively, another thing that I think, again, raises his floor is his decision making. And that's something that we have talked about a lot on this show. And it's also something that Scott Harris has been very public about and was one of the reasons why Parker Meadows was just the September call-up and wasn't called up earlier. We know that I don't know if stingy is the right word, but he's going to be sure about a call-up before he does it. Obviously, Harris was very, I don't want to say safe either. That's not the right word, but just really held out on him and Keith, obviously, Malloy, etc. And one of the reasons he cited was just Parker Meadows' decision making on which pitches to swing at and which ones not to. His walk rate, again, only 37 games, was 11.7%. That is remarkably high. And his chase rate was 23%. That is very, very good as well. So the fact that he was also well above league average in sweet spot percentage. So you're talking about a guy who really, again, has no issue drawing walks. And when you have that sort of speed attached to your name as well, that becomes really exciting. Like a guy that can draw walks and run when he gets on base. I really think that in a nutshell, again, is a pretty high floor caliber of player, which is one of the reasons one of the many reasons, clearly, why I'm so excited about him. The flaws in the offensive game, I mean, we can go over the stats, right? 232 average and a 699 OPS in those 37 games. That's not anything super special, right? That's a sub 700 OPS. One thing and something that has been cited about him in the minors as well is we need to see if he is going to be able to consistently hit lefties at the major league level. And in the short sample size from last year, he hit them pretty well. But that is another reason why he stayed in the minors. They wanted to see him really take a step forward against left-handed pitching. So that's a huge thing this year, right? Are you going to be that guy that, right, he'll be the defensive platoon or the defensive sub late if he doesn't start a baseball game pretty much every night, I'd imagine. But he's going to get plenty of opportunities against righties. Is he going to be the guy that you can plug in and just play in center field for 150 plus games? And I think a lot of that is going to come down to how well he can consistently hit left-handed pitching. So that's a big thing that I'm looking for this season. Also, just in general, his swing, just the bat path of it is going to lead to some strikeouts and probably some swings and misses. That was something that and the lower levels of the minors, he struggled with a lot. And then as he got to the higher levels of the minors, kind of tightened up and got a lot of it at one point better in. But Major League pitching is a whole different animal. Struck out 25.5% of the time last year. Not catastrophic. That's not awful, right? But it's certainly well below league average as well. And again, this is less than 40 games. So we're taking this all with some sort of a grain of salt, good and bad, just because of the small sample size. And the whiff rate was actually slightly better than league average. So that's something to kind of hang your hat on there as well. But that's really the two biggest things is, can he consistently hit lefties? Also, will the power translate? That was a big thing down in Toledo. This was a guy that people looked around and went, wow, this is going to be a really big time plus defender that has 20 home run potential and is going to steal 20 or 30 bases if we let him run. That's wild. Like, that's so exciting. That's such an exciting profile of a player. Does the power translate? Obviously, we know when he hits it, like when he connects, he can hit the ball really hard. And we talked about in his short sample size in the majors last year, the sweet spot rate was really, really solid as well. But I think just becoming again, the difference between AAA and the majors is massive. So if he can consistently get to becoming even if it's not, like 22 to 25 home runs, he's in that 18 to 22 home run range, plus walking, plus giving us everything outside of the batter's box, he is going to be so valuable, right? And I don't expect him to ever hit for a really high batting average. I don't think that the swing that he has is really a 300 hitter type of profile. But man, if he can bat 250 with some pop and draw walks, this guy could be one of the more, from a value perspective, one of the more valuable players on the Detroit Tigers. I'm not saying he's going to be the best player, right? I'm not saying he's going to be the franchise ahead of Green or Torque or Skubal or anything, but just from pure, like, what's his WAR going to be? How much value does he bring in his all-around game? That is the type of ceiling. We're talking about a guy who could be like a 3.5 or 4 win player, even if he's not well above average on the offensive side of the ball. And if he does become, even above average offensively, super, super valuable just because of everything that I've reiterated about a billion times now that he brings outside of the batter's box. So looking for lefties, really, I think I would just want to start with him hitting fastballs really well, right? I obviously, I mean, the big home run was off of, I want to say that was a slider, the big walk-off home run he had against Houston that was like the Tigers' moment of the season. So he has obviously shown the ability to hit, maybe it was a curve. It was a weird pitch. Anyway, he has shown the ability to hit off speed, and that was something that he worked on again a lot in the minor leagues. One of the things that was cited for why he was staying down and whatnot. But I really want to see just if he can consistently hit fastballs, he will stick, and there will be room for him on this roster. I I'm so pumped to watch him play baseball. Maybe more than anybody on the team, to be completely honest. Like and the floor again, we want to talk about expectations for this year. The floor, he would have to, I genuinely think he would have to hit really poorly for him to get kind of booted off this roster or kind of miss out on his opportunity. And we saw him go, whatever it was, 0 for 20 or 0 for 30 at one point in one stretch last season in his short time in the majors. So that's not like off the table. I don't want to make this sound like this is like a guaranteed, can't hit type of thing. There are serious questions in the offensive profile and what will translate and what won't. But if everything clicks, I mean, I cannot express how exciting and just good of a baseball player he has the ability to be if everything really clicks. So I think one of the bigger questions as well this season is, how quickly do they try him at leadoff? If he's walking a decent amount, then probably pretty early, right? If that translates and that, obviously it did in the minors and it did in the short stint last season. If the walks translate to this season, then he is probably going to get a look against righties, at least in the leadoff spot at one point. But I think early in the year, they probably won't put too much pressure on him, bat him lower in the lineup type of thing. But I mean, could you imagine a 10 OAA, 8 to 10 OAA center fielder that is in the top 10% in speed and incredible run value, plus he can hit 20 home runs and hit 250 and draw a boatload of walks? Like that is like that. And again, not all of those things are going to happen. He's also a rookie. Like even if they do happen at some point, the odds of them all happening this year are slim, right? Again, as I started off this, this conversation with, I want to show my excitement without overselling what I think he's going to do as a rookie. This year, I would just love an OPS somewhere in the 700s, show the pop a little bit, and continue to prove everybody right with the defense and obviously just keep being fast, which it comes pretty naturally to him, I'd imagine. So that's probably not going to be too much of an issue, but I'm not looking for a world beater here. This guy is going to be a really valuable part to the 2024 Detroit Tigers, even if he has, a slightly below league average OPS, just because of everything he can do, outside of the batter's box and on the base paths and inside the batter's box, etc. But I think he has a high floor because of all the tools that he has. So I'm unbelievably excited, as you can tell. Had one WAR, I want to say, according to Fangraphs. Yeah, it was worth one win in 37 games. You do the math. Yeah, prorating WAR is a slippery slope. Okay, I'm not advertising that. I'm not advocating that. I'm not saying that that's how player value is determined, but it's also fun to push a narrative, and that's a pretty darn valuable baseball player if you do that. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back on Monday. Like I said, you give me a 2.5 win season and an OPS that starts with the number 7 with some pop in there, I'm going to be thrilled. I'm going to be thrilled with Parker. So again, not asking for the world, not saying he's going to win, rookie of the year, not saying he's going to be a 3.5, 4.5 win player as a rookie. That's all I'm expecting out of his rookie season before I get yelled at for overhyping the kid. But I really think the sky is the limit for him, and I'm hoping that he's able to continue that upwards trajectory going forward. All right. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I will catch y'all on Monday, baby. Go Tigers.